All right, we'll get started. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. I'm Sabrina. This is Erica. We'll be
Hi.
doing this workshop slash presentation on college and scholarship prep. The advice we give will be tailored towards college, but it also applies to scholarship applications. And first, we'll introduce ourselves briefly. I'm Sabrina. I'm currently a sophomore at Yale University. I'm from Long Island, New York. I was a CFS 2023 scholar, and I'm pursuing a degree at the intersection of law, business, and public policy here. A few of my achievements are, for example, the US Presidential Scholar, Coca-Cola, GE Reagan, Regeneron STS, and also World Science Scholar. And I'll pass it on to Erica.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm a first year student at the University of Buffalo. I'm studying neuroscience on a pre-med track.
All right, so I'll start with the Common App, which is required for college applications. And this is, it really depends on where you're at in your college application stage, but these are the components of it. Personal information, such as family background, they ask you for it, and it's all required to fill that out. Also, academic records, transcripts, GPA, test scores. That also depends on the format of that, depends on the school that you're applying to. There's also an activity section and essays, which is where it's very important for you to shine through, as well as letters of recommendation, and the numbers for that differ depending on the college that you apply for. And also, just briefly, we're going to go through some tips from our experiences in applying to college and also scholarships throughout this presentation. So look forward to that.
All right, so I'm going to talk about the application timeline. Most of it's going to consist like your junior and your senior year, but of course you can start as early as like freshman year and taking the time to understand like what colleges you're looking into and what extracurriculars you want to build upon. But junior year, you usually start with like researching your colleges, picking the ones that you're most interested, taking standardized tests like the ACT or the SAT, and then thinking about possible essays you want to craft your junior year. And then the summer before senior year, you want to finalize your college list. Definitely start your Common App the summer before senior year, just because filling out your profile is going to take you a long time. Definitely starting your applications and drafting your essays. I would also like to add junior year is usually when you want to start touring colleges. Also, like sophomore year is also applicable as well, but you definitely want to do a bulk of your touring junior year, just because senior year you have a lot to worry about considering applying for colleges and scholarships and so on. Fall of senior year, you want to, if you're looking to submit early applications, that's when you do that. Finalizing like letters of recommendation, making sure that you ask your teachers ahead of time because they're also going to be writing letters of recommendation for other students, but also just reaching out to other potential people that you want to ask and complete testing. Usually you want to complete testing junior year, but making sure that everything's finalized your fall of senior year as well. And then winter of senior year, you want to finalize your regular decision applications. And that's when you also want to start applying for scholarships and financial aid forms. I'm not sure how many of you know what FAFSA is, but it was recently released, I would say maybe like a month or two ago. That takes also a quite a bit of time. You do with you like you do your application, then your parent has to submit one as well. So making sure that you have enough time to submit those as well. And I'm gonna say later on in this workshop, but this process is very long, especially senior year. So you definitely want to stay on top of your applications and don't do everything last minute. I feel like many of my friends who went through the application process, some of them did it very last minute and it was not a fun process. So I strongly suggest you space it out and you stay organized, and you create a schedule.
Yeah, just quickly adding on to Erica about drafting essays the summer before senior year. I think it's helpful if you save essays maybe that you've written for classes over other maybe scholarship applications or program applications before maybe you start working on college applications, especially if they're also geared towards the personal narrative type, because that can be useful to help craft your college essay. So just a note. Okay, so these are the financial aid policies typical for many colleges, and this helps you choose your schools based on your financial situation, what schools you apply to. So need blind means that the admissions decisions do not consider financial need, and need based means that that your financial need may influence admission decisions. And each school's official website, admissions page, department should state exactly which one of these two they are. And if you can't find it, definitely call the admissions office. This should be something that is explicit. And also some other resources to help you navigate your personal financial need, like Erica mentioned, FAFSA, CSS profile, also other scholarships that exist. For example, here's a plug. The Dollars for Scholars organization has a scholarship based on financial need and also based on merit, and it also promotes a lot of other great scholarships that can really help you as you navigate your path to college. Also, as a tip, it's great to just simply Google high school scholarships. And there's many great lists out there of selective and prestigious scholarships and things like that that you can apply to. And those are also good exercises, not only to like put on your application if you manage to get it, but also good exercises for writing your college application ultimately, because those are all similar in style. Um, Okay, I'm going to move on.
All right, yeah. So now we're gonna talk about academic excellence, and that's gonna be like a good majority, not like a majority, but it's gonna be like the foundation of your application. Um, you definitely want to maintain strong grades and choose rigorous courses, especially if you're going to be applying for like competitive colleges. Um, Academic officers definitely want to see if you're able to manage your grades while taking these courses. Also, along with academic excellence, your ACT, and your SAT scores. I know some colleges are test optional, but of course, it does supplement your college application and it can boost it. And then also academic growth, consistency and improvement matter just as much as raw scores. So if you're able to show that you've improved over the years and you're maintaining good grades, that's also a good factor to keep in mind.
And also, I think a lot of schools release, for example, their median GPA, so that may be helpful to gauge, where you may be in the application pool. Okay, extracurricular activities. This is one of the most important parts of your application, in my opinion, as well. Something definitely to emphasize is focusing on quality, not necessarily quantity. Admissions officers go through so many applications, so it's really important to put down things that you think will really make you stand out, and also highlighting leadership and impact, showing depth of commitment, and being specific in what you put down on your activities. We'll go into this a little bit more later, but language is very important. Be as specific as you can within the word count that you're given to really demonstrate the impact that you have made or the significance of the award, not just what it is. Um, and really showcase what truly excites and motivates you. Be authentic and definitely use active keywords, such as like
是吗？
uh,
我并不懂我什么。
did or initiated, or you research something or you led something. Words like that are important rather than just like putting down the name of an organization or like an award.
Yeah, like as Sabrina said, you're only given like maybe 100 words per, I think, like club you're a part of or any extracurricular that you've done on the Common App. So it's important that you limit your words, but also you concentrate on words that you want to highlight that shows like your impact on the club that you've done. So it's very important that you choose really strong words for that. All right, crafting essays that shine. I think it's very important, especially when you're writing your personal essays. You want them to be authentic and reflective, and you should like think about essays that you want to like reflect who you are and you what you want the admissions officers to know about you. Also, when you're writing essays, questions, if you're given extra questions to answer, you want to like tailor your essays to like that specific school, like a why, like us kind of question. You kind of want to research like what opportunities or clubs or people that you want to work with that are a part of that university. Like, you want to make sure that you highlight those and you specify why that school means a lot to you. And when you're drafting your essays, you want to make sure that you read it out loud and you edit it extensively, making sure that you have a good craft. Definitely take time to reflect and revise the story, making sure that your story is compelling and definitely, again, research opportunities, clubs, staff you're applying to, making sure that everything showcases why you're interested in that school.
Yeah, and just adding on to Erica, the essays are important because once you reach kind of the academics standard of the school you're applying to, academics generally really serve as sort of almost a minimum bar you have to meet. And once you're like an excellent student, the next step is to distinguish yourself through things like essays and extracurriculars. So essays are definitely important. Also something I would add is that again, a genuine narrative and being authentic, again, emphasizing that that's really important. Also taking into consideration how your application will be viewed as a whole. Like kind of go through your honors and activities and see if they align with your essay. I'm not saying that they necessarily have to be like super compatible with each other. I think there should definitely be some kind of connection between all the things that you put on your application, and that really helps in your narrative to the admissions officers. Also, again, like start early on. Reading these essays out loud also is a good practice to help catch any like flow improvements and things like that. Okay, recommendations. Um, Build relationships early with teachers and mentors. I think that a lot of you guys are probably in high school. So it's definitely really important as your teachers will be submitting recommendations on your behalf, and also those who you may work with outside of school in a volunteer or employee capacity, etc. And they should your recommender should really know you well enough to write meaningful and detailed letters. And you can help them help you by providing them the necessary information they need and the context that really highlights your achievements and what you're proud of. So, for example, providing your resume, some teachers may ask you for a brag sheet. That's also common. Guidance counselors are also there to support you, so make sure you utilize their information and support while navigating college apps. Also, guidance counselors are someone I definitely recommend also to develop a good relationship with because they will also be writing recommendation letters. And definitely express gratitude towards staff. A little really goes a long way in that regard. So like go to office hours, stay after school, ask questions, and be engaged. Teachers love it when students are respectful and inquisitive. And also, this is a little bit of a tip, but it's definitely a good idea to be observant about recommendation letters and to hear other maybe upperclassmen's experiences, what's asking for a certain teacher's recommendation letters, and like think about, how does your teacher usually write? What is their style like? Are they more reserved or do they like to like brag about their students? So just be aware of that. Uh,
Yes, definitely I want to add, make a list of the people you want to write a recommendation letter, just because I know from personal experiences, many teachers that you're going to ask are also going to be writing letters for other students as well. So making sure that you have a list and asking them in the summer, send them an email, or first thing like senior year, you go up to them and ask for a letter of recommendation just so that you're first on their list and they can always prioritize you and getting that out of the way.
And definitely don't be afraid to send follow-up emails to teachers. You can sometimes feel like you're annoying, but really it's better to be safe than sorry.
Okay, so now we're going to be talking about showcasing your impact, and that can be either be through like leadership roles that you have assumed, volunteer work, or any other things that you've done in the past that you think that are worth mentioning in your Common App. Um, One thing that you can do is like focus on measurable results or personal growth. Admission officers like to see like where you've grown and how you've reflected on that. Um, Connecting your work to larger themes of leadership and community service. Like I said, if you were maybe like secretary or president of any club, that is a great accomplishment that I think is worth mentioning on your Common App. And definitely, like Sabrina said earlier, you want to mention specifics. Um, if you're wording it on your Common App, you want to say like raised like $5,000 for scholarships versus organized a fundraiser. Those two have very different meanings. Your admission officers are not going to know what like the depth of what organizing a fundraiser might be. And definitely, again, being specific and thoughtful in how you describe your efforts.
Yes, just quickly a note, we've been getting some questions in the chat. We'll see, we have time for Q&A at the end. So you can send them along now in the chat and we'll go through them at the end, or you can unmute and ask at the end. But we have Q&A at the end. So yeah. Also something I just thought of on like recommendation letters. Um, some teachers may ask you what you want them to talk about. Again, I mentioned like the brag sheet, but this is a good opportunity for you to remind them of certain anecdotes, like memorable experiences that demonstrate times that you went above and beyond in class or maybe outside of class, and experiences that they are able to personally testify and advocate for you about that adds dimension to your application. It's really important to select information that you want them to know about you and want them to present on your behalf. So it's not like a repetition of your honors and awards. And on this slide about showcasing your impact, something also important is like um, if you have, for example, I'm just thinking of like nonprofit work or volunteer experience and work, in addition to talking about maybe like how much you've raised or how many people you've served or things like that, it could be helpful to talk about like who you have collaborated with or worked with, especially if they're, esteemed leaders in the community. That can add some dimension as well. Sometimes people forget that, so that's why I just want to note that. Okay, building relationships and professionalism. Um, this is all about networking. Networking isn't just about jobs, although it very much is, but it's about finding mentors who can guide and support you through this process, whether it's for college or scholarship or other program applications. And you will find that in college, networking becomes even more important. So it's good to start developing these skills early on. So this goes back to also recommenders to develop these relationships with counselors, mentors, teachers. Something important to note also is to use social media responsibly. Some AOs, admission officers, they do check some students' social media accounts, and some students have historically been flagged. Um, so just keep that in mind. Social presence is even more important in this modern digital age. So just make sure you keep yourself in check. Um, also, mm, do due diligence research on people who you think can be of help to you. So the questions that you ask are insightful and not surface level. Um, yeah, I think that's what I'll say for that. Erica, do you want to add anything?
I think I can think of like this in like a medical perspective, but like let's say you want to shadow someone or you want to um I guess gain experience with someone in a field you're interested in. Don't be afraid, again, like Sabrina said, to reach out to people. It's definitely really scary from experience, like cold emailing people, but I think you never know until you try. And once you do hear back, it's definitely worth your time getting to know that person and whether or not they want to have you as someone who's shadowing them. Um and if they don't reach out, it's okay. You can at least say that you tried, and there are me like much more opportunities down the line too for you to contact other people.
Yes.
All right, I'm nailing the college interview. So if you are going or aiming towards a college that is competitive, or you are going you're applying for a competitive college program, there usually will be a college interview just to make sure that like the people like admissions officers know that you are the right fit for their program or their university. So definitely making sure that you nail the college interview. You definitely want to prepare um, the college or the program you want to get into by researching the school and practicing answers. You want to be genuine and as enthusiastic during the interview. And you, at the end, some of the interviewers are going to ask questions, and if they do ask, like, if you have any questions about a specific program or the university, always ask a question. I think it's I guess like one of my most helpful tips. Asking a question not only shows that you're interested in the program and the university, but it shows that you have been listening to the interviewer and you're building off of the information that they have given you. So definitely make sure that you're asking questions when applicable. Um, Also be confident, be curious, and really just use this opportunity to show your personality. Along with the Common App, they're reading about who you are, but they're not seeing you face to face until that interview. So be sure to show who you really are and showcase that personality. Practice your answers repeatedly again. And I think one thing that helps is you have or asking someone that's well versed in I guess like interviews like alumni, current students or admission officers for advice or a second pair of eyes and ears. Sabrina.
Yes. So on the college interview part, like Erica said, um, usually it's by alumni. Sometimes it's by current students of the college, and also sometimes it's by admissions officers from the schools that I applied to. I got interviewed by like all of the above in different circumstances. Um, it's important to kind of tailor your responses to the person that is interviewing you. It's good to do some due diligence work, research who they are. A lot of people have a social media presence. Check out their LinkedIn. That's also helpful to do. Oh, a very popular college interview question is like, why this school? Which is common also for the actual written part of your college application. So review that before you go into any interview. And this applies to scholarships and jobs too. Like why this company, why this scholarship, why are you a good candidate? Like why should I hire you? Same thing goes here. Like why should I admit you to this college? I think something that is a major goal of these interviews are to gauge where you would fit in on campus. Like, will you contribute to this community? And things like that. Personally, I'm an ambassador for the Yale admissions office, so I can say that I think it's really important to from my application experience to really let your creativity shine through, but also to be very honest. Don't be someone that you're not because it'll be very obvious, especially in like a face-to-face interview. So those are just my 2 cents. Okay, final application tips. Edit essays thoroughly, take breaks between your drafts, set it down for a few days, maybe a week, and go back to it, read it out loud. Again, manage your social media presence carefully. Stay organized, track deadlines, use reminders, use the Notes app, use Google Calendar. Um, and let's see, any other application tips? Let me just think about this. So for the interview that we were just talking about, um, keep in mind who is judging or maybe sponsoring for example the scholarship that you're applying to. This is on the scholarship side of it, but scholarships commonly have a sponsor. So think about that because that is usually representative of the scholarship program as a whole, and emphasize qualities and ideas that they are looking for. There's limited time in your interview, so you don't want to just repeat the essays and things that they already know. Think about what's not on your application. Think about what can score you the most points by doing research beforehand. Again, especially for interviews, answer the questions directly. Don't be redundant and go on and on. Bring in your achievements, but like concisely tie them with anecdotes that support the qualities that they're looking for. Like a framework could be like through like this experience, I learned blank and impacted blank, and this taught me blank. And I see this on like your university's campus through blank, and like I want to join so and so on campus to continue so and so. Like that's just like an overall framework of time, what you have done to like what you can contribute to the community and why you're a good fit for that college or scholarship. Um, and um, let's see what else. I think a good question to keep in mind is like, what do I bring to this school instead of solely focusing on like, what can this school do for me? I think that's something that a lot of students can get a little bit caught up in, and I think that's important to note. Um, and making sure to answer this question, whether explicitly or implicitly in your application, really makes a difference. Um, And this is like a little also side tip. Um, but in interviews, especially if you have like the email of your interviewer, sending a thank you email post interview goes a long way. Especially like mention, don't just say like, "Oh, thank you for your time and consideration. I appreciate it." Like even that can be helpful, but it's even better if you mention specific things that you guys talked about and how that has impacted you, and like reaffirm your interest in something. Um, yes. Erica, do you have final thoughts?
I think you really nailed it. I think the only tip that I can offer that Sabrina hasn't or said, um, is that definitely do your research before you go into your college interviews or any interview in general, like whether that be for a scholarship. Um, you can kind of gauge what they might ask, but if you're not sure, you can definitely ask like previous students or previous scholarship winners, kind of get a gist of what they might ask. Another question that I've seen as well is like give 3 words that describe yourself. Definitely take the time and think about certain words that you think are best fit.
So this is a Google Doc that has tips for scholarships and financial aid. But a lot of things in here also apply to college, and a lot of things that we talked about are discussed here. This is a packet that is made by me and Alan, who is in my year for DFS scholars and is also currently a student at MIT. And this is, I think, a good resource to save. Um, okay, I'm gonna move on for now.
All right, yes. And then wrapping up this um like little workshop, definitely want to mention taking care of yourself. Um, college applications can be overwhelming, and that's why I think personally it's very important to prioritize your mental and physical health, especially like your last 2 years of high school. When you're creating your Common App, it's definitely common to look at others and see what they have achieved, and you might think that you're underperforming, but I think that that's only going to be detrimental to your application. And I think that as long as you can see your personal improvements and the work that you have done in your community, that is worth putting down on your application, regardless of what others have done, and definitely celebrating small wins along the way. I like to think of the college application process as like a marathon, not a sprint, and definitely take time to recharge and focus along the way.
Okay, now we're going on to Q&A. We got some questions in the chat. So I'm going to read through them in order and we'll answer them. Also, feel free to raise your hand and unmute and ask questions too. So, first question we have, okay, if applying to EA or ED, do you still feel that senior year teacher recommendations would be strong enough? Yeah, so with your question specifically about senior year teacher recommendations, I think it depends on your relationship with your senior year teacher. Um, it really is a case by case basis, I think. But as long as you think that they know you well personally and they can advocate for you and you think they can really brag about you, then yeah, that's what you should look for in a recommender. Um, okay, next question. Could you guys please give us some tips on cold emailing? Also, do you mind sharing the most meaningful extracurriculars that you have both had and how you felt affected your applications? Let's start with the first one. Could you guys please give us some tips on cold emailing? Um, in general, with cold emailing, again, do your due diligence research. Look at their social media prevalence, their LinkedIn, things like that, and try to draw connections between your interests and their experiences. Um, and that's something you should definitely mention first in your email. Also, think about not just like, what can they do for me, like if they can be my mentor or things like that, but also, what can I do for them? I know that cold emailing at the initial stages, that's a very like difficult question to answer, but it's something you should really keep in mind. Um, Also, one thing I guess is it's always a good practice to talk to people face to face as opposed to over email. So, like, after you've established contact, it could be nice to meet for like a chat, face to face. That's just something that can be helpful. Erica.
Yeah, I could definitely talk about my experiences with cold emailing people. So my freshman year, my current year, definitely reached out to many like head researchers at the University of Buffalo who were researching on neurodegenerative diseases. And that's something that I definitely wanted to be a part of. And as I'm looking into their work, I've definitely tied in what their interests are to my interests and definitely state what like they're doing and how you want to contribute to that, but also how this would tie into maybe your future goals as well. Um, I think a lot of I guess like college research opportunities. Many head researchers are always looking for college students. So don't be afraid again to reach out.
Yes. Second question is also, do you mind sharing the most meaningful extracurriculars that you have both had and how you felt it affected your applications? Erica, would you like to go first?
Okay, yeah, I can go first. I think my most meaningful extracurricular would probably be vice president of my high school student government and maybe like president of my senior class council. I've always done student government at the high school that I attended, and it was a good way not only connect with the other schools in my district, but also since I've basically grew up in the district that I attended, I've worked with like from all the way from kindergarten to high schoolers. I've worked with administrators, faculty members, community members, and I think it's just like such a nice way to give back to the community that I've grown up in. Um, and then my senior class, I think it was especially like my last year, it was a nice way to, I guess, I don't know, kind of end a bittersweet journey, but also making memories along with the people that you've grown up with. I don't know, Sabrina?
Yeah. Most meaningful extracurriculars. Um, I think that I guess for me, a few key areas would be girls and women's empowerment. Also writing and research. I talked a lot about like my writing journey, and I put down the national and international awards that I'd gotten for my writing and also for research. I've published research and presented in conferences, and gotten awards for it. Um, Also, I founded a 501(c)(3) nonprofit called Girl Pride International that uplifts girls around the world. And I specifically also talked about that in my applications. Um, Also, of course, like leadership roles at school and other, for example, like legislative advocacy. That's something I was very passionate about in high school, and I'm continuing that at Yale. I published a poetry book, and I put that also on my application. Um, and Yeah, those are the general things. How you felt it affected your application. Um, I think that one of my extracurriculars, um, well, Well, I guess I'll say this because like now I do go to Yale, but one of the things I did was related to Yale in some capacity, specifically to an alum who is also from my hometown on Long Island, New York. So that's something I specifically talked about in my application, for example, in my like why Yale essay. Um, yeah, that's what I can think of right now. I'll come back to this if I think of something else. But yes. Next question. Were you asked any questions that you did not necessarily prepare for or know? And how did you handle that during the interview? So this is about the interview. Um, I'll start about this first. So for interviews, I think first of all, one question you should definitely prepare for, no matter what, is why you are a good fit for the school or what you hope to contribute to the school. That's just something that you should know before you walk into anything like that. Um, some tougher questions could be things like, well, actually, tell me about yourself. Like, that's a pretty standard question, and you don't want to answer that too long. So make sure you prepare that in advance, like a little elevator pitch about yourself. Um, Maybe areas that you're most passionate about. Um, Also questions, there's some questions about like what's your biggest strength, what's your like biggest weakness. Like those questions are sometimes tricky. um there's also questions about like what's the mistake or challenge you faced, how'd you overcome it, how'd you deal with it, what's a quality that you think a leader should have, what's your proudest personal achievement. um I'm kind of just going down the list of like my college preparation document back when I was applying to college right now. Who is your role model? Um, like how would you define success and failure? And how would you contribute to this school? Or like, how would you use this scholarship in the future? And also at the end of interview, it's really nice to put down a few questions that you want to ask them. That shows that you did your research, you're passionate, and ask for about things like next steps. That can be a bonus. Are interviews for colleges optional? If so, then would it be more helpful to do it? Yes, no one's going to force you to do a college interview, but it definitely, in my opinion, I think it's more helpful to do so because if you say like no, then they may be like, why are you applying? Um, so I think it's definitely good practice. And they do write up, like they take notes on the interview. And each college, like they evaluate those things differently and they weigh it differently, but still it demonstrates your interest in the school. So I would say yes, it is helpful. Um, so yeah, okay. What tips do you have about getting a scholarship from Dollars for Scholars?
If we're applying this to specifically the Greater New York Chinese Dacha Scholars, I would say like definitely reflect on your past, maybe how you grew up and with the culture around you. I think one thing that many the interviewers will ask is like, how has, I guess, the way you've grown up or how your culture has shaped who you are as a person? And I think for me, it was really nice to reflect on that and to be able to showcase who I am in my interview. In general, being yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned a lot of the types of interview questions before. I think some of them appeared probably in my interview for DFS. So like keep those things in mind. Tips. Yeah, as Arika said, I think your roots are very important, your ethics, your values, your morals, things like that. I specifically received the Merit Scholarship Award, so I talked a lot about like my honors and achievements. Also doing some research on previous scholars. I think it's online on the website, that applies here too. So yeah. Since I am yet to be admitted to a college, am I qualified to apply for a scholarship? Yes, you are. There are many scholarships for high school students, and getting those are also a way for you to stand out on your college application. So that's the answer to that. there's many high school scholarships. Do you have any recommendations on where to find them? Is the next question. Yes, if you Google search high school scholarships, there will be many lists out there. Um, and you can also filter by like United States or like, for example, I'm from New York. There are Northeast scholarships too by region. So things like that. There's many, many lists online. If a Google search will definitely bring you to where you need to be. Also, if you're specifically interested in like, for example, like writing, you can Google like writing like awards or like scholarships, or if you're interested in like STEM, like you can specifically tailor your search towards what you think you're strongest in. Um Also, okay, how many people oh, Erica, do you have anything to add to that one about where to find scholarships or
Um, I know for me, like my high school, we had like a page tailored to scholarships, so definitely like your guidance counselors will help you out.
on page 3 and 4 of the document I sent earlier, I'm going to send it again. It actually, there's a section that we've written about how to find scholarships. So that could be a good place to look at pages 3 and 4. Um, yeah, there's like national scholars, there's different types of scholarships. There's like national, there's local, there's different like prestige. Guidance offices often have a list of scholarships. Um, but I think, yeah, something really helpful is finding lists that others have made, especially by past students, like older students. They've been in your shoes before. There's also some scholarship databases that are highlighted at the bottom of page 3 that you can look at. Do you have any tips on how to stand out in group interviews? So, group interviews are not super common, especially actually unheard of to me at least for college. I have actually I don't know if I have been in group interviews before with other people. It was more of like a competition thing rather than like an interview. But I mean, okay, I guess I'll say like standing out in general in groups. Um, as I said before, like doing research on who is judging you can really separate you from your peers. Um, anything to Erica that you can think of?
One thing, well, also, I mean, I haven't personally experienced a group interview, but I think one thing I can say is like definitely don't compare yourself to others. I think what your accomplishments are equally as valid as other people's, and it's definitely worth mentioning. And also making sure that you showcase who you are as a person and not trying to be someone else, because I think interviewers will definitely see right through that.
Yeah, just communicate clearly and confidently. Um, yeah, again, don't compare yourself to others, but make sure you somehow like differentiate yourself. I guess that will be one thing that's different in a group interview versus like an individual interview. Be observant, be adaptive. Oh, follow up, send a thank you, a personalized thank you after the email. It's like that your peer may not. So that's another thing. We'll take like one more question if there's any other questions. If not, then we'll end here. Good luck, everyone.